Hare Krishna, everyone. Thank you for joining. Let me just sort this out. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, where is everyone? Okay, Kiran Prabhu's here. All right, if anybody else wants to join, we'll start the program. And you all know Ajaya Gauraraya Prabhu anyway, but just to let you know that he's a disciple of His Holiness Jayapataka Swami, and he's well versed in the scriptures. He's read through all the Srila Prabhupada's books, and he's doing Bhaktivedanta, so he's doing really well. And on the material side, he's got a degree in law, so it's so nice that he's taken Krishna consciousness so seriously, and I look forward to hearing from him. Okay, Ajay Prabhu, are you ready?
Just give me a second, it's loading up.
Okay. You want me to start, Radha Madhav?
Yeah, you want to see about the mother of all this figures out.
Okay. Jai Radha Madhava Jayo Kunj Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Jaya Kunj Bihari Jai Gopi Janavallabha Jaya Giravardhari Jai Gopi Janavallabha Jayo Giravardhari Shodanandana Rajjana Ranjana Shodanandana Rajjana Ranjana Yamuna Tiruvanachari Jayo Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Hari Bol. Okay, over to you, Prabhu.
Okay. Hare Krishna, you can hear me? Everything good?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Okay. Let me just share the screen. Okay. How's that look?
Well, can't see anything.
Can't see anything at all?
We can see you, but yeah, okay, it's coming up. Okay, just hold on. What I'll do. That didn't work. Okay, don't know why we're seeing you actually. Okay, you want to stop share and try again?
I was try again. Okay, let's try. Okay, so I was I'll just check content only then. Okay. That better?
Yeah, that's it. Got it.
Can you see me? Oh, it's all good? Oh,
Yeah, you're at the top. Yeah, I can see you.
okay. Okay, Hare Krishna, everyone. Some technical difficulties. I think, like with everything, it depends on Krishna's mercy. Thankfully, got through. Okay, so today's chapter is chapter 15 of Canto 1. The Pandavas retired timely. I'll just quickly say the Mangalacharan. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudhiriyad Nashtapraptabdeshu Nityam Bhagavata-Sevayā Bhakti Shloke Bhakti Bhakti Veshasiki. Bhakti Bhakti Veshasiki. Okay, so yes, this is chapter 15. The Pandavas retired timely. I'll jump straight into text 1 because actually that provides a nice introduction to what's happening. Okay. Sutta Vacha Evam Krishna Sakha Krishna Bhratrarya Vikalpitaha Nana Shankas Padam Rupam Krishna Vishlesha Karshitaha. Translation. Sutta Goswami said, Arjuna, the celebrated friend of Lord Krishna, was grief-stricken because of his strong feeling of separation from Krishna over and above all Maharaj Yudhishthir's speculative inquiries. Quick purport, so I'll read that as well. Being too much aggrieved, Arjuna practically became choked up, and therefore it was not possible for him to reply properly to the various speculative inquiries of Maharaj Yudhishthir. So what, as we know, in chapter 14, Lord Krishna has practically come to an end. He has disappeared from the earth as such. And such has been the grief of Arjuna that Yudhishthir questioned him all the way through, but he didn't say a single word. He was that overcome with grief, knowing the Lord was no longer giving him direct darshan. And that's quite important for us, because how often do we feel grief that we're not directly in contact with Krishna, that we're not in the spiritual world, that we aren't served, that we have forgotten him. At times we do forget him. Yeah, actually we know we have forgotten him because we're here. And that's the intensity that, again, Arjuna, of course, is an eternal associate of Krishna, eternal associate of the Lord. That's the kind of intensity we need to develop. We should be in tears that we are not serving Krishna, we are not enjoying our natural constitution. He has his eternal servant. And I'll push on and you'll see just the strength of the intensity of Arjuna's love for the Lord. Verse 4. Sakyam Maitrim Sordam Cha Saratya Dishu Samsmaram Nirpam Agrajam Ityaha Bashpa Gadgadaya Kira. Remembering Lord Krishna and his well wishes, benefactions, intimate familiar relations, and his chariot driving, Arjuna, overwhelmed and breathing very heavily, began to speak. Okay, oh yes, so this is Arjuna. He's again, as I explained, he's very much overwhelmed. We're speaking here about, he's remembering the Lord, remembering how he was his supreme well-wisher. He's always looked after the Lord. We think of the verse from Bhagavad-Gita, Bhoktaram Yagata Prasam. We think of the Lord as the enjoyable sacrifices, the supreme enjoyer. Yet he is not only that, he is also the supreme well-wisher too. So as in, yeah. So it's not just that the Lord is enjoying for himself. He wants us to enjoy with him, and he constantly taking care of us in that sense. In Arjuna's case, he was his charioteer during the war. He looked after him, made sure Arjuna faced the best of the best during that era, but he was never truly in danger because he took the shelter of the Lord. The Lord made sure that he was properly guided. Any danger, no matter how great, there was no reason for him to fear because he was following the instructions of Krishna, following the instructions of the Lord. And he protected him in so many. You think of, like, for example, Karn. Karn had him in trouble at one point, but Krishna intervened and made sure that Karn's weapons could not harm Arjuna. Then there's the example of Jayadratha. Jayadratha had the boon that if he that he could only be, that if his head landed on the floor, he was beheaded, then the person who killed him would die. And on top of that, Arjun had taken the vow to kill Jayadratha before sunset. But Krishna, because he's the Supreme Lord, ensured that the sun was hidden, so Jayadratha, who had been expertly guarded by the Kauravas, then they allowed Jayadratha to be seen in sight, and then he was moved out. Then Krishna moved the clouds out the way, and then that allowed Arjun to not only keep his vow to take revenge on, because he was avenging the death of Abhimanyu, but he also ensured that he was not killed, because he would have to commit suicide because of the vow he had taken. It's these little things that, there's so much danger that Arjun, the Pandavas had to overcome, but Krishna was always looking after them. He even married his sister Subhadra to him. There was nothing too much for Krishna to do, to look after Arjun. And Arjun was not foolish. He realized just how great, the wishes were of the Lord. Okay, next verse. Verse 5. Arjuna vacha vanchitoham maharaja harina bandhu rupina yena me partam tejo deva vispapanam hat. Arjuna said, "O king, the supreme personality of Godhead Hari, you treat me exactly like an intimate friend, has let me alone. Thus my standing power, which astonished even the demigods, is no longer with me." Now we understand, as of course we've all covered in the classes on this chapter, that Arjuna had been given emergency powers. This was for the mission of the Lord. The mission of the Lord, again, Bhagavad-Gita explains nicely, Prathanaya sadhunam vinishaya jajuskram dharma samstha pranarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. It's about annihilating the miscreants, delivering the pious, and reestablishing the principles of religion. And so once the Lord's mission had been complete, Arjuna no longer needed his exceptional powers that meant that he could combat with the very best. There was nothing that he couldn't essentially do as such, and that's because of the grace of the Lord. Krishna had empowered him. It was necessary that he had these powers because such was the challenge he was facing. The Kurus were that formidable. Yet now his powers had gone, but he was not so much grieving for the loss of the power, he's grieving for the loss of the association of the Lord. He's not like the foolish politicians and people in this era or previous, in what we would consider antiquity of modern era. I'll give the example of someone like Alexander of Macedon. He considered himself invincible. He did conquer a lot of the world. Yet he also died young as well because he didn't realize that anything he had managed was by the grace of the Lord. It's not because of his own power. Or likewise, the politicians of today, they think, you name whoever you like, whichever dictator you like, but they don't realize that they are in so much trouble. They're not invincible. They can't defend themselves. Often, most of them have great security, and yet they think themselves are all powerful. They don't realize that they, like all of us, are dependent on Krishna. Without his grace, without his protection, we are very, very vulnerable. We need to take the protection of the Lord. Without him, we are setting ourselves up failure. Okay. Next verse 6. Yasyakshana yogena lokahi apriya darshanaha uktena hito hiesha mritakaha prochete yatha. I have just lost him whose separation for a moment would render all the universes unfavorable and void like bodies without life. Now again, Arjuna is showing his intelligence. He's understood that Krishna is the absolute truth. Now we understand that Krishna, for example, in the spiritual world, there's no need for a sun because the effulgence of Krishna, what we sometimes refer to as the Brahman, that's what lights everything up. Likewise, every living entity in this world is looked after by Paramatma in terms of witnessing and sanctioning everything. So we are the Vibhanamsha, the part and parcel of the Lord. And Krishna, through his Swamsha, for example, the Paramatma, he ensures that we are given the opportunity to live in this world, that we're given the opportunity to rectify our ways and return to him. Now we need to be like Arjun when we actually understand how dependent we are on Krishna. Now, for example, we take for granted anything we can do, even breathing. Breathing is only possible because Krishna desired that you breathe. It's not that you decided one day, I'll breathe, I'll see, I'll smell. All of these were empowered by the Lord. You wanted to live without him, well, he at least gave you the option to do so. We didn't create anything in this world as such. It was all created by the Lord. We're merely using his facilities. And that's the thing. We take it when we think we are the enjoyer, that's when we get confused, and that's when we make mistakes because we're misusing his property. That's always dangerous. Verse 8. Yat sanidhav aham ukandavam agaya ram indram cha samaraghanam tarasa vijitya labda sabha maya kritad bhuta shilpa maya degbhyo haran nripatayo balim advarete. Because he was near me, it was possible for me to conquer with great dexterity the powerful king of heaven, Indradeva, along with his demigod associates, and thus enable the fire god to devastate the Gandhava forest. And only by the grace of the demon Maya saved from the blazing Gandhava forest, and thus we could build our assembly house of wonderful architectural workmanship, where all the princes assembled during the performance of Rajasuya Yagya and paid you tributes. Now, this is an interesting verse because if you notice, Arjun mentions he defeated Indradeva. So Indradeva is his father. So what exactly happened here? Well, it explained that Agnidev had become ill. Now, what had happened was the king Swetika, in his sacrifice, he'd offered so much ghee, because he offered ghee into the yagya, he offered ghee to the fire. Agnidev had become ill as such. And so Agnidev now was looking for a cure. Now, Agnidev had learned that the cure was to burn down the Gandhava forest. Why would you burn down the Gandhava forest? Because there are medicinal herbs there that can cure him. Now, the problem was, within that Gandhava forest lived the Naga Takshaka, who was a friend of Indra. So every time that Agnidev would try to burn down the forest, Indra would send down rain. And so Agnidev would remain ill. Now Agnidev is struggling, thinking, what do I do? Actually, in Agnidev's case, also a good lesson for us that, you should be careful with ghee. Like, too much ghee is always dangerous. But Agnidev's looking for a solution. And then he's told, take shelter of Arjuna and Krishna. The Lord and his great friend, they can help you. So Agnidev approaches Krishna, says, explains the situation. So I need your help. Krishna and Arjuna agree to help him. But Arjuna explains, I've got all these celestial weapons, but I don't have a bow that can handle these weapons. So Agnidev thinks, well, what can I do? So he contacts Varundev. And via Varundev, that's how Arjuna receives his Gandiv bow. And on top of that, he also gets a couple of quiver arrows that are unlimited. And he also gets a nice chariot as well, courtesy from the moon god. Such is the amazing pastimes of the Lord that he creates the situation where he can empower his devotee, power his associate. Now Arjun is empowered now, and he defeats Indradev, destroys the forest. Agnidev now can burn down the forest full of demons and everything, and Agnidev is feeling a lot better now. Now there's one clever demon there, Danava. He escapes, and then the Sudarshan Chakra and fire, so Agnidev, is chasing after him. But Maidanav is so clever, he takes shelter of Arjun. And so Arjun says, okay, I'll give you shelter. So that forces Krishna and Agnidev to stop them attacking Maidanav, because they're taking shelter of Arjuna and say, okay, if Arjuna's giving you shelter, we will let you go. Now, in that way, not only has Arjuna been empowered in terms of ability, he's also been further glorified. It's showing that the devotee is even more merciful than the Lord himself. Because thanks to the devotee's mercy, he's been saved. And Mayadav is actually given the opportunity to serve because he's allowed to build this amazing assembly hall, which will then be built in Indraprastha. So not only has he been saved, he's actually beginning to serve the devotee. Mayadav is all of God's sudden gone from being an enemy of the Lord to being able to serve the Lord via the devotee. So, because it was Krishna's suggestion that he serve Arjuna in this way. And it's incredible what Krishna, the situations he creates for us, creates for the devotees that allow for the devotees to be glorified. Okay, next verse, verse 10. Patnayastava klipta mahabhisheka shlagishta charu kabaram kite vehi sabhayam sprishtam vikirya padayoho pita patitashu mukhya yastat striyo krita hatesha vimukta keshaha. It was he only who loosened the hair of all the wives of the miscreants, who dared open the cluster of your queen's hair, which has been nicely dressed and sanctified for the great Rajasuya sacrificial ceremony. At that time, she fell at the feet of Lord Krishna with tears in her eyes. Of course, this is the infamous event at the dice game when Dushasan had the temerity to drag Draupadi, causing her head to get loose. But that hair, loosening the hair, was essentially symbolic in the sense that the loose hair of a wife would suggest that she's now become a widow. And that's what happened to all those at the dice game, all those that insulted Draupadi, the great devotee of the Lord, they would all perish at the Kurukshetra battle. And that's a great lesson for all of us. We have to be careful not to insult, and not just any devotees. Actually, we shouldn't insult any devotees, but especially the great devotees. We need to be careful because that will destroy our bhakti. Whatever piety, whatever thing we have done, never mind bhakti itself, it is wrecked when we insult the devotees. We need to respect those who have dedicated their lives to serving Krishna. They are dear to Krishna, and especially the pure devotees are very dear to Krishna because Krishna is bound to them. And that's a great lesson we always need to be careful of. That's why we have in the offenses, first offense against the holy name, blaspheming the devotees that dedicate life to, serving the Lord. We need to be careful of this. And, Draupadi is a great example where by insulting her, they essentially they destroy their own lives. Okay. Next verse is let's get to it. Verse 12. Yat tejasatha bhagavan yudhi shula panir visma pitahas sagrijo stram adha nijame anyepi chaham amuneva kalevarena prapta mahindra bhavena mahad asanardham. It was by his influence only in a fight I was able to astonish the personality of God, Lord Shiva, and his wife, the daughter of Mount Himalaya. Thus he, Lord Shiva, became pleased with me and awarded me his own weapon. Other demigods also delivered their respective weapons to me. In addition, I was able to reach the heavenly planets in this present body and was allowed a half-elevated seat. Now, I don't think it can be underestimated just how astonishing it is that Arjun was able to fight with Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva is exceptionally powerful. For him to impress Lord Shiva, for Lord Shiva to give him his own weapon, let's just make sure that the Pashupata Astra, means Lord Shiva was very impressed with him. Likewise, other demigods also delivered their respective weapons to him whenever they fought them. For example, during the Kandava forest, the other demigods became bound later on when he would after they were defeated by Arjun when they were backing up Indradev. And also during that, he was, as we explained, Arjun was able to reach the heavenly planets. That was the boon in his present body. That was a boon by Agnidev. Because Agnidev was so pleased by his helping him. He gave him the boon that he can just go in his current body to heavenly planets. And Arjun was so honored, he was actually given a half elevated seat. Now, wasn't a full demigod as such, so he wasn't even a full elevated seat. But that again, actually showing the respect he was given. And this is the thing that we, when we serve the Lord, while we're not looking for glorification, the Lord does look to glorify you as well. Now, that's not necessarily our interest, but the Lord is always looking to glorify his devotees. And of course, when such a great devotee as Arjun, naturally, he would be glorified. And it's just amazing what he was able to achieve. But he's achieved this because he's fully dedicated to the service of Krishna. Verse 14. Yad bandavaha kuru bhalabdhim anantaparam ekorathena tatere ham atirya sattvam pratyahritam bahu dhanam cha maya presham tejaspadam mani mayam cha hritam shirobhyaha. The military strength of the Kauravas was like an ocean in which there dwelt many invincible existences, and thus it was insurmountable. But because of his friendship, I, seated on the chariot, was able to cross over it, and only by his grace, was I able to regain the cows and also collected by force many helmets of the kings, which were bedecked with jewels that were sources of all brilliance. Now, this is actually, again, another amazing achievement of Arjun. So at this point, this was the year they were in exile. And Arjun had this Ajaya, I'll explain because I'm sure many already know that Arjun had previously gone to Swarglok. There he had met the Apsara Urvashi, and she had become very much enchanted with him, and she wanted to be with him. Now Arjun refused her advances because she'd previously been married to his forefather Pururava. Therefore, naturally, he just told her that she was like a mother to him, so it would be inappropriate. Urvashi didn't handle this rejection very well, and she cursed him that if he would refuse to, take her as a woman, that he would be neither a man nor a woman. Now, this would seem like rather unfair. Arjun was doing the right thing, acting correctly. Now he's been cursed this way. Yet, as is arranged for the Lord, this curse would become a great boon. Because his year in exile became quite easy because nobody could recognize him. Nobody would think that was Arjun in disguise. Or in this case, he literally was, given a full disguise. And what made this kind of, in one sense, quite humorous, though impressive as well, is that Arjun, in order to defend King Virat, he would accompany his son Bhumanjaya along to fight the Kauravas. So not just the Kaurav warriors, we're thinking Bhishma Dev, Dron, all these powerful warriors. They also had the army along with them. And Bhumanjaya his son thought that he could actually compete with them. Then he saw this ocean of army, this powerful army. And then he realized he'd make a great mistake and he'd ready to run away. But Arjun told him, don't run away. You'll be my charioteer. Let me just get my bow. Let me get the Gandhi. Let me get weapons. And I'll take care of this. And that is the empowerment of Arjun. I mean, I don't know what the Kauravas first thought when they saw this, Arjun in this cursed form. They didn't recognize Arjun as such, obviously. Think, who's this person dares fight us? But when they saw the prowess of Arjun, that they saw these arrows firing at them at lightning speed, or faster than lightning, quite frankly, then they realized this is Arjun himself. And he single-handedly defeated them all. So much so that he regained the cows and brought back the helmets of many of the kings, such as Duryodhana and so on and so forth. That is the empowerment given by Krishna, that even the most formidable foe can be defeated because Krishna looks after his devotees. And Krishna wouldn't, and certainly with such a great devotee such as Arjun, who was, we know he's in Sakyaraj, he's, such a great friend of his. Arjun he would make sure Arjun was never defeated. He wanted Arjun to be glorified. All right, next verse. Verse 16. Yadoshuma pranihitam guru bhishma karna napter trigharta shalya sendava bhalikadyahi astranyamogha mahimani nirupitani nopashpreshur nirhari dasam ivasurani. Great generals like Bhishma, Drona, Karn, Bhurushrava, Susharma, Shalya, Jadrat, and Balika all directed their missile weapons against me. But by his Lord Krishna's grace, they could not even touch a hair on my head. Similarly, Prahlad Maharaj, the supreme devotee of Lord Nrsimhadev, was unaffected by the weapons the demons used against him. I just listed some of the great generals that Arjun defeated in that meeting. And it's just a really nice comparison that Arjun is given. Just like he felt like Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj had been given Sarupa Mukti, a body just like the Lord, because of his constant remembrance of the Lord. He could not be harmed by Hiranyakashipu, his father, or his associates trying to harm him. I think I just look down, like say, like they tried threw him into fire, boiling oil, or top of a hill, and he leads his legs an element, administers poison. None of these things harmed Prahlad Maharaj. Likewise, Arjun understood that Krishna was looking after him. He knew that whatever shenanigans, whatever schemes, whatever attempts the Kauravas would place against him, he was under the shelter of the Lord. He just needed to follow the Lord's orders, and the Lord would look after him. The Lord, because he's following the Lord's orders, nothing could stop their success. And Prahlad Maharaj was very much the same. Prahlad Maharaj was completely devoted to the Lord. And so Prahlad Maharaj feared nothing. All he really wanted was for his father to redeem himself, fix the error of his ways. And even till after his father passed, he still pleaded to Nrsimhadev that please, allow my father to be saved, despite all his crimes. And that's the thing. That's not only are the Lord's devotees protected by the Lord, but they look to protect others as well, even if they mistreat them. That's the beauty of the great devotees. Okay. I'll get down to just bear with me, verse 21. Tadvedanusta Ishvara Saratho Hayaste Soham Rati Nirpatayo Yatha Aramanti Sarvam Kushanena Tad Abhud Asad Isha Riktam Basman Hutam Kuhaka Radham Ivoktam Usham. I had the very same Gandhiva Bhav, the same arrows, the same chariot drawn by the same horses, and I used them as the same Arjuna to whom all the kings offer their due respects. But in the absence of Lord Krishna, all of them at a moment's notice have become null and void. It's exactly like offering clarified butter and ashes, accumulating money with a magic wand, or sowing seeds on a barren land. It's a simple analogy, but it's one we should be aware of. A civilization without Krishna is essentially a dead civilization. That's the thing. You can have seemingly all the abilities, power, money, but these are all because of the empowerment of the Lord. And that's where someone intelligent like Arjun understands that. Therefore, he doesn't get puffed up. Therefore, he understands that I need to keep looking towards the Lord. And that's why he wasn't saddened. He wasn't shocked that his powers had gone as such. Most of the fact that he didn't have direct association with the Lord anymore. That was his main concern. That's the thing we learned from him, that it's like, actually, it's a nice analogy given in the purport. All electrical energies are received from the powerhouse. As soon as the powerhouse stops supplying energy, the bulbs are of no use. we're like that. We are the bulbs as such. We are being supplied energy by Krishna. If Krishna decided to stop supplying us energy, we would be completely useless. Thankfully, Krishna is so merciful that he continues to keep us, continue to maintain us till we decide that we actually want to come back into his service. And whether we go back to Godhead or serve him elsewhere, the Lord doesn't give up on us, and that is his mercy. Now, verse 22 to 23. Rajam stvaya no prishtanam surdam naha suratpure viprashapa vimudhanam nignatam mushtibhir mitaha varuni madiram pitva madhon matita chetasam ajanatam ivan yonyam chatuhu panchaveshitaha. O king, since you've asked me about our friends and relatives in the city of Dwarka, I will inform you that all of them were cursed by the Brahmanas, and as a result, they all became intoxicated with wine made of putrefied rice and fought among themselves with sticks, not even recognizing one another. Now, all but 4 or 5 of them are dead and gone. This is Arjun confirming what Maharaj Yudhishthira already kind of knew, that he had figured out that the Yadus have perished, and in a quite incredible way. Now we understand that they had to be this way because nobody else could defeat them. Only they could defeat themselves. And because the Lord's mission was finished here, they had to leave. Still, you can imagine, though, just hearing this, what a shock to the system would be that the Yadus, the great Yadus, the most formidable Yadus were now gone. It just kind of puts into perspective that, people are amazed that the great empires of this day and age, the so-called great empires of this day and age, are come and gone. But if the others can disappear, then anyone can disappear. And that there can be no doubt. Verse 24. Pranetad Bhagavata Ishvarasya Vicheshtitam Mitho Nignanti Bhutani Bhavayanti Chayan Mitaha. Actually, this is all due to the supreme will of the Lord. The personality of Godhead sometimes will kill one another, and at other times they protect one another. Now, this example here is given that we need to do everything in relation to the Lord. When we do everything in relation to the Lord, what the Lord desires, then things will go nicely. When we go against the will of the Lord, that's when things go wrong. That is what explained by the struggle for existence and survival. It's only because we are trying to exist in a world that we know is dukhalaya and shasvatam. It's miseries here. We're trying to exist within Krishna's parameters. Then life becomes a lot easier because he is in charge. We try to fight against it. We're going to struggle. And it's actually, the test thing is actually quite easy to please the Lord. Like, for example, Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam Yome Priyachati. Lord is easy to please, just offering from leaf, fruit, flower, water. Now, these are simple things. Yet we fight against it, and it's quite sad, really, because the Lord has made it quite simple for us to serve Him. Yet we deny His supremacy, deny His mercy, and that's a great flaw in this part. Example towards the end of purport, that there's no room for personal whims. We must always be guided by the pleasure of the Lord. Such actions called yogaha karmasu kaushalam, or actions performed which are linked with the Supreme Lord. That is the art of doing everything perfectly. That is what we need to do. We need to link everything with the Lord, link everything with the desire of the Lord, which pleases the Lord. We do that, then everything will work. Even in this miserable world, it will work because the Lord will guide us. He will guide us through within the heart. He will guide us through Shastra, through the great devotees. He will guide us. We just need to be willing to listen. And that's the thing that's always the thing we actually need to be thinking to ourselves within our lives. Are we actually living this way? Are we actually living in a way that pleases the Lord? If we think of this actively, then that makes things life a lot easier. If we don't do this, then we end up in what's the current situation. You got people fighting, wars, confusion, depression. It's because they're trying to live in a life that's against Krishna's will, what Krishna wants for us. What is our natural propensity? Okay, next verse. Verse 27. Desha kalartha yuktani hrit-tapo pashamani cha haranti smarataschitam govinda bihitani me. Now I'm attracted to those instructions imparted to me by the personality Godhead Govinda, because they are impregnated with instructions for relieving the burning heart in all circumstances of time and space. Now, this verse is particularly interesting in terms of we sometimes think that for Arjun, it's of course very fortunate that he had Krishna's direct darshan, but the Bhagavad Gita is just mostly meant for us, and it is mostly meant for us. Yet in this case, it became very useful for Arjun as well, because with Krishna gone, Arjun was obviously bereft, he grief-stricken. But then he remembered the instructions Krishna had given in Bhagavad Gita. Doing your prescribed duties, then pushing on beyond that, doing what's desired of the Lord, understanding that there are many paths to get to Krishna, but the best path is bhakti, loving devotional service. That's a beautiful thing here, that Bhagavad Gita, obviously, thanks to Arjun asking Krishna, thanks to Krishna's mercy, we had the Bhagavad Gita. Arjun's also showing that Bhagavad Gita is the instructions there are useful in any situation, and that's what we need to take heed of. Is that we need to be wary of thinking of things in our own personal interest. That's when you get confused. When we take to the interest of Krishna, then everything makes sense. That's how we understood Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga. All these things start making sense when you apply it to the Lord. How to serve Him, how to understand Him, and then how to apply all that together. How in loving service, everything is given to us: knowledge, service of Him, and further deeper understanding, actually building a relationship with Him. All this is possible by the grace of the great scriptures like Bhagavad-Gita, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. We are very fortunate to have these in our lives. Verse 29. Vasudevagri anudhyana paribrimhita ramhasa bhaktya nirmatita shesha kashaya dishano Arjuna. Arjuna's constant remembrance of the lotus feet of his Lord Sri Krishna rapidly increased his devotion, and as a result, all the trash in his thoughts subsided. Now, this is Arjun showing us the way how to improve our bhakti. So, constantly remember the lotus feet of the Lord. That is the way. The more we remember the Lord, the more we progress in devotional life, the more our lives will be better, the more we improve the people. And all those nonsense that's going through your head, that will dissipate. That's what Arjun showed. He did it. He just focused himself in. And that's all of a sudden, whatever's bothering all these issues, they dissipated straight away. And that's the thing, is that sometimes, like, we understand that from Krishna we get forgetfulness, remembrance. So the more we remember Krishna, the better our understanding will be. But if we want to forget Krishna, then Krishna will allow us to forget him as well. The option is ours, really. Do we want to progress in our devotional lives, progress in what is actually a natural, what will actually help us? Or do we want to be stuck in this material world and keep suffering? Now, sometimes for like devotees, they struggle, like when they're listening to a class, for example. They might, when the class is over, they might enjoy the class, but later on they might forget completely what the class was all about, or remember very little of it. Now, what Arjuna is showing here is that we need to apply everything to Krishna. As in, like, when you're happy, think of Krishna. When you're sad, think of Krishna. Likewise, there's so much to think of, so many points made here. try to take one after the class is over and apply it to your life. Or flip side, if you are going through something right now, which we all have our own issues, that's inevitable in this world, then apply that to these verses. Because Arjun is, he was in great grief, struggling badly. Yet by following the instructions of Krishna, by remembrance of Krishna, he was able to aid himself of his grief. And on top of that, he was able to compose himself. He was able to deal with whatever situation. And that way, if you link your life to Krishna, you link every emotion, everything to Krishna, you'll remember something from this class. You remember something from when you read something from, say, Bhagavad-Gita, Shastra, listen to other classes, and you'll always think about Krishna. That's what we want to do. We're constantly trying to do. That's what we're trying to do, constant remembrance. We need to be constantly thinking of Krishna. If we're constantly thinking about the Lord, then we are on the right path. Then we want to be like the pure devotees. They're always thinking of the Lord, always acting for the Lord. We do that, then there is no reason to be sad or scared or anything, because we're just acting for the Lord. We are just devoted servants. We let him take care of the result. We just do our best. And then we do be like Arjun. Just constantly remember Krishna. Constantly remember his lotus feet, and that will take care of whatever issues ultimately that whatever we're facing. Because we know this life is temporary. These problems are temporary. We just need to take aid of the Lord. Okay, verse 32. Nishamya Bhagavan Margam Samstam Yadu Kulascha Swapathaya Matim Chakre Nibritatma Yudhishthiraha. Upon hearing of Lord Krishna returning to his abode, and upon understanding the end of the Yadu dynasty's earthly manifestation, Maharaj Yudhishthira decided to go back home, back to Godhead. Now again, example of having spiritual intelligence. Maharaj Yudhishthira has understood Krishna has departed from this world. It's time for us to depart now. Our mission is complete. He's not thinking to himself that, I could hang around a bit longer here, be like Dhritarashtra, for example. Dhritarashtra was happy to hang around his kingdom even after his sons were murdered. I would say his sons were killed. After he was happy to depend on the Pandavas, even though he had been the enemy pretty much all their lives. He didn't have to embarrass himself. Now, Yudhishthira wasn't interested in wealth or fame or everything, even though he had all that. He was interested in the service of the Lord. He was intelligent. And that's how we need to be. We need to be focused. We need to be molding our lives in that way. Some of you may have already done that, and that's fantastic. They're a great example to all of us. But for those of you that haven't, then that's what we need to do. Mold your lives in the service of the Lord. It shouldn't be, I could serve Krishna today, I'll think about him tomorrow. Always think of Krishna. That's how Yudhishthira is able to just decide right there and then, okay, I'm renouncing my kingdom, and I'm going to head back to do what's necessary to head back to Godhead. Verse 33. Pritapi anushrutya dhananjayoditam nasham yadhunam bhagavat gatim chatam ekanta bhaktya bhagavati adokshaje nevishetat mo pararama samshritihi. Kunti, after overhearing Arjuna's telling of the end of the other dynasty and disappearance of Lord Krishna, engaged in devotional service of the transcendental person of Godhead with full attention, and thus gained release from the course of material existence. So their mother Kunti overheard this as well. If anything, for her, is hearing about the other dynasty would be worse for her, because she was from the other dynasty. She was the daughter of Shursena, who then gave her to his cousin Kunti Bhoja because he had no children. No, that was her family. It was their family as well, but it's her family. Yet, again, another great devotee, rather than mourning and just worrying about things and just completely overwhelmed, she's realized, okay, our mission is complete. We have to start, heading back now. Like Queen Kunti was, great devotee. Remember her prayers in chapter 8 of the Canto 1, that, she was found to suffer again and again, suffer even more, as long as she had the association of Krishna. That is that's very high standard. quite intimidating to think about. But that's the thing we need to kind of aspire to as such, that we are steadfast in our bhakti. Doesn't matter what we have to deal with. We want this association with Krishna. We need to be like Queen Kunti that way. Verse 37. युधिष्ठिरस्तात परिसर्पणं भूध पुरे च राष्ट्रे च गृहे तथात्मनि विभव्य लोभृन्था जीम हिम सनाधि अधर्मचक्रं गमनाय पर्यदात्. Maharaj Yudhishthira was intelligent enough to understand the influence of the age of Kali, characterized by increasing avarice, falsehood, cheating, and violence throughout the capital, state, home, and among individuals. So he wisely prepared himself to leave home and he dressed accordingly. Now, of course, Maharaj Yudhishthira already figured out that Krishna's Bhakti Leela had ended in chapter 14, previous chapter. So he was already, in his mind was already ready, but now he's fully ready to leave. And so what's the case that now we are fortunate at least that we have Bhagavatam, so Krishna Swadharma Bhagate Dharma Gyan Dibisaha Kalanashta Dishkamesha Puranarko Dunoditaha. Krishna, Bhagavatam is what will give us vision. In that case, that we are very fortunate we are associating with Bhagavatam right now. We have been associating with Bhagavatam for as long as we can, we should continue to associate with Bhagavatam because it is what will give us vision in this age of darkness. Yet, one thing to also account for is that we're aware that this is the golden age of Kali as such. No, golden age of Mahaprabhu, sorry, 10,000 years. But actually, not only is this golden age of Mahaprabhu's, yet the Sankirtan Yagya, there's also still the full effect of Kali hasn't actually kicked in yet. We're still in the Sandhi period, the transitional period. You see, from yuga to yuga, it's not like you go from one yuga to another yuga and that yuga's effect takes place straight away. There's a transitional period. So you've got the transitional period into heading into Kali Yuga, which we're into Kali Yuga, but not fully into Kali Yuga yet. And on top of that, we had the golden age. Therefore, if you think things are bad now, they can get a lot worse. They will get a lot worse. Scripture tells us that. We're actually in the good times in terms of Kali Yuga. Therefore, it heeds us that we need to take advantage of the golden age of Mahaprabhu before we head into the golden age of Kali, and then that's when you're in big trouble. Therefore, we need to be like Maharaj Yudhishthira, it's be intelligent enough to understand that you don't want to mess around too much in this age. Take to the service of the Lord and go back home, go back to Godhead. And how did Maharaj Yudhishthira do this? Surat portram vinayinam atmanaha susamam gunehi toyanibhya patim bhumer avyashinchad gajavaye. Thereafter, in the capital Hastinapur, he enthroned his grandson, who was trained and equally qualified as the emperor and master of all land bordered by the seas. Again, the intelligence of Maharaj Yudhishthira, there was a fitting successor in Parikshit. He allowed his grandson, technically his Arjun's grandson, but of course he looked at him as a grandson as well. And that's the benefit of being trained in Krishna consciousness, in spirit, being spiritually inclined. You naturally understand what you need to do next. You don't waste too much time as such. It's not that you think to yourself, oh, I just want to enjoy here, because it's not about enjoying here. Now, actually, what's even interesting is that during Parikshit's time as well, the citizens were still enjoying, compared to what is now, they're still enjoying themselves because of the good administration of Parikshit, like the good administration of Yudhishthira. They had, as explained in the purport, they had ample natural production of grains, fruits, milks, herbs, valuable stones, everything they needed. Because people accepted him as the emperor of the world because their administration was actually putting them first. Even the earth was happy with them. there's, for example, Adi Devik wasn't as much prevalent. You wouldn't get earthquakes and hurricanes and all these natural phenomena that, the earth would be happy as well. Yet they weren't addicted to staying in this world, even though things were seemingly all right, because they understood that actually it's in the association of Krishna, that's where the happiness is, not here. Verse 39. Mathurayam tatha vajram shirusena patim tatha prajapatyam nirupyeshtim agnin api bhad ishvaraha. Then he portrayed Vajra, the son of Aniruddha, grandson of Lord Krishna, at Mathura as the king of Shirusena. Afterwards, Maharaj Yudhishthira performed a Prajapati sacrifice and pledged himself to fire for quitting household life. Now, this is another good example where somebody fitting was put in charge. Vajra was the last remaining of the Yadu dynasty, and he would actually do a lot to help us as well, actually, in the future, because he would actually end up carving a lot of great deities which we have, which we rely on in our worship as well. Like, for example, he carved the three principal deities of Vrindavan. That's Shri Radha Madha Mohan, Shri Radha Govind Dev Ji, and Shri Radha Gopinath. That's the thing. That's when those that are intelligent are put into place. Those that are actually naturally dedicated to Lord. He was able to carve these deities by being empowered by the Lord and by relying on Shastra. When you have intelligent people in place, things naturally take care of themselves. The Lord will, and that's the grace. That's what we're lacking in this day and age. We don't have enough spiritually intelligent people in charge to help guide the masses. Right, verse 43. Chiravasa niroharo bhadavan mukta murdhajaha darshayan atma rupam jadodbhatha pishachavat anavekshamano niragat ashrinvan vadira yatha. After that, Maharaj Yudhishthira dressed himself in torn clothing, gave eating all solid foods, voluntarily became dumb, and let his hair hang loose. All this combined to make him look like an urchin or madman with no occupation, not dependent on his brothers for anything, and just like a deaf man, he heard nothing. Which verse is this? 43, yeah. So 43. That's the interesting thing here is that he's actually, he's given up everything, including dependency on his brothers. That's a big thing here because, we know the Pandavas are one. You think of what all they went through. They were inseparable. All the scheming that the Kauravas did, never did they think that they could split up the Pandavas. That never occurred to them. Because they understood the Pandavas, they were dedicated to each other. But Yudhishthira, again, spiritually intelligent, he understood he even gave them up. Because, attachment to the Lord is more important. Now we talk about what does surrender look like? Like famous verse, Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Vraja Aham Tvam Sarva Papebhyo Moksha Shangam Shuchha. Abandon all varieties of religion and surrender unto me. Well, what is this surrender? This is the example of surrender. This is that purified stage of fearlessness. He's surrendered, he's given up everything, surrendered unto Krishna. That is kind of this. So whenever somebody asks you what does surrender look like, this is what surrender looks like. Just complete dedication to the Lord. And Maharaj Yudhishthira is the highest, he's great devotee, but you got everything. Got all, anything you'd want in the material world. But he doesn't care. He's just dedicated to Krishna. And that's how you get back to Godhead, because you just got to dedicate yourself to the Lord. There can't be no half measures. Verse 45. Okay, verse 40. Actually, well, I'll mention, well, quickly mention verse 44 as well. Udichim pravi veshasham gata parva mahatma bihi Shriti Brahma Param Dhyayan Navarteta Yato Gataha. Then started towards the north, treading the path set by his forefathers and great men, to devote himself completely to the thought of the supreme personal Godhead. He lived in that way wherever he went. quickly mention this verse in that, of course, as I was mentioned throughout, you always remember the Lord. Now, one thing is when you think of heading toward the north, is heading toward the Himalayas. Now, the Himalayas that we can see and the ones that are accessible, those in the spiritual bodies, two different things. It's actually scripturally said that the Himalaya is a lot bigger, far, far bigger, like than what we can see. So whenever you read anything scripturally about, them heading north, it's not just heading to Everest or something. It's a lot higher than this. They're heading to a different Varsha as such, a different tract of land that is not acceptable, understandable to us. We need that spiritual, the spiritual grace to actually to get there. And that's what's happened with the Yudhishthira. He's received that spiritual grace. Verse 45. Sarvetam anunur jagmur brataraha krita nishchayaha kalina dharma mitrena drishtva sprishtaha praja bhuvi. The younger brothers of Maharaj Yudhishthira observed that the age of Kali had already arrived throughout the world and that the citizens of the kingdom were already affected by religious practice. Therefore, they decided to follow in the footsteps of their elder brother. Now, again, we talk about spiritual intelligence. They've seen how their brother has given up his kingdom. He's ready to go. They understood, right? It's time for us to go as well. We're not that's going to be like think to themselves, oh, we'll take over from Yudhishthira. We'll enjoy material opulence. No, we're interested in serving the Lord. These are great devotees of the Lord. They're great associates. They're not bound by the Purusharth activities or anything like the four goals of human life, dharma, artha, kama, moksha. They're not interested in just living a happy, so-called happy material life, making money, enjoying yourself, doing a bit of piety, because they understand even moksha, for example, is still material thinking. Because even if you, for example, there's still that I mentality. Even if you manage to get to the effulgence of the Lord, get to Brahma Jyotir, you still come back down because you're not serving the Lord. You're not actively engaging with Him. That's the only way to be properly engaged with the Lord, for serving Him. Anything else, anything that's I related, not Him related, will lead to our downfall, or at least will not satisfy us. And that's why the Pandavas are such great devotees, because they're interested in serving the Lord only. Verse 47 to 48. Tadhyano dhriktaya bhaktya vishuddha dishinaha pare tasmin narayana pade ekanta mate yogatim evapur dhuravapam te asadir vishet mabihi vidutta kalmascha stanam vrejenat manevahi. Thus, by pure consciousness, due to constant devotional remembrance, they attain the spiritual sky, which is ruled over by the Supreme Narayana and Lord Krishna. This is attained only by those who meditate upon the one Supreme Lord without deviation. This abode of Lord Sri Krishna, known as Golok Vrindavan, cannot be attained by persons who are absorbed in material conception of life, but the Pandavas, being completely washed of all material contamination, attain that abode in the very same bodies. Now, we understand, we are very fortunate, of course, in the first few verses of Bhagavatam, that Bhagavatam is for those that are not, they're not dharma projeketa vatra paramanirmat saranam satam. They're not those that are interested in real religion, as in real service of the Lord, real relationship with the Lord. They're interested in the highest truth. They're not interested in any material conception. That's what Bhagavatam is. That's what Bhagavatam is there for. And it is also the mature fruit of the Vedas. So it's for those that are looking for the highest truth, those that are looking for the real relationship with the Lord. Now, what's so interesting is, for those that are expert in Mahabharata, they might look at this and think, I thought the Pandavas went to heaven. Well, it's explained that the Mahabharata is actually targeting those that are in Karma Kand, those that are, like explained earlier, the Purusharth activities. Mahabharata is there to motivate them to keep going. So it says to them that the Pandavas only reached heaven. But if you read Mahabharata, it's explained that Yudhishthira in particular wasn't interested in heaven. He's interested in association of Krishna. And wherever there's Krishna, there cannot be, heaven is not going to suffice. You go where Krishna goes. And Krishna is all about, going back to Godhead, that's where he's based. So that's the amazing thing about Bhagavatam. It reconciles two different, it reconciles two different Vedic vantage points. It's that both are correct actually, in that this Bhagavatam is explained to us what happened in what happened to the Pandavas 5,000 years ago. Now it's explained that what happened in the Mahabharata was in a different kalpa, different age. Yet both can be true. The Pandavas can go to heaven, yet still want to go higher up because they want to go where Krishna is. Likewise, this is true because they are pure devotees to the Lord and they want to go back to Godhead. Now we are really blessed to have this kind of intelligence, trying bestowed upon us. Now you wouldn't think of this unless you've been given this grace by the Acharyas and by our gurus. That's it is we take it for granted sometimes, but it's amazing the knowledge Prabhupada has given us. Really, he just explains everything. A lot of people just rely on the TV series, for example, for their the old 80s TV series for the knowledge of Mahabharata and other stuff. But this is where the real knowledge is, real knowledge from the great devotees. And also, okay, I'll move on to verse 49. Buduropi parityaja pravase deham atmanaha Krishna veshena tachitaha pitrabihi swakashayamlayo. Vidura, while on pilgrimage, left his body for Vasa. Because absorbed in the thought of Krishna, he was received by denizens of Pitralok, planet where he returned to his original post. Again, I think we're familiar with this anyway, but just worth mentioning again that Vidur, he took back to his previous post as Yamraj. So again, he understands his mission here is complete. So as such, he's taken back to his own post, he's taken back to his own responsibilities. And that's how it is for the servants of the Lord. They're just interested in serving the Lord. And then whatever's next, they move on to. Verse 50. Draupadi cha tadagaya patinam anapekshatam vasudeva bhagavati heyakanta matir apatam. Draupadi also saw that her husbands, without caring for her, were leaving home. She knew well about Lord Vasudeva, Krishna, the person of the Godhead. Both she and Subhadra became absorbed in thoughts of Krishna and attained the same results as their husbands. Now, here's also something I'm actually researching about this, and actually is also very interesting, is that, again, if you think of the Mahabharata version, Draupadi was with her husbands, yet here it says Draupadi stayed behind. Now, Srila Jiva Goswami in the Shat Sandarbhas, the six treatises that explains that bhakti is top, and bhakti is the best way to understand bhakti. He explains that actually what was what Vyasa saw in Mahabharata, Vyasa saw from a different universe. He actually meditated, he actually understood it from a different universe, what was happening. This happened in our universe 5,000 years ago. So Draupadi actually did stay behind, and she, along with Subhadra, they meditated on the Lord, and they actually went back to Godhead. Again, it's just that's the depth of detail we're dealing with here. That Bhagavatam explains to us what's happening in different ages, different universes. It is just completely incredible what is being given to us by the great devotees of the Lord. Okay, and the last verse was a benediction for the devotees. So those who have read it, I'll just quickly go through it. Yaha Shraddha Yatad Bhagavad Priyanam Pandaho Sutanam iti Samprayanam Srinoti Alam Swastya Yanam Pavitram Labdvahara Bhaktim Upeti Siddhim. The subject of the departure of the sons of Pandu for the ultimate goal of life, back to Godhead, is fully auspicious and is perfectly pure. Therefore, anyone who hears the narration with devotional faith solely gains devotional service of the Lord, the highest perfection of life. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Very nicely explained. And yeah, it's a sad but very enlightening chapter. So, it's really nice to go through it, and you explained very nicely as well. And some things I picked up from here about what you mentioned about Arjun. that now Krishna actually offered him, throughout Bhagavad-Gita we see that Krishna is saying, if you die, you'll go to heaven. If you live, you'll enjoy the kingdom. So either way, you'll enjoy. But Arjun didn't want the heaven or the kingdom. And he was offered the heaven because those days, as you mentioned, that the warriors fought to go back to heaven. And I thought, well, we die on the battlefield. Naturally, they went to heaven. So that was the idea. But yeah, like I said, they wanted Krishna anyway. So Krishna was just testing Arjun by offering him heaven, but he was not interested in the heaven.
Plus, what happened with Urvashi? I think he might think twice about going back to heaven anyway.
Yeah, I don't want to curse the second time. Good point. So he made some enemies up there. Yeah, so yeah, Krishna was just testing him, and he says, "No, I don't want any of this." And then Krishna went and explained further. He said, "Well, I don't actually want to offer you heaven anyway. I've got better plans for you." Then explained to him Bhakti Yoga. So yeah, that makes sense. So I was just thinking about service. You mentioned, serving Krishna is having the opportunity to serve Krishna or Vishnu or Ram. It's the best thing that can happen to you. And although in the five rasas, the Dasya ras is maybe considered one of the lower rasas, but you see, say for example, Giriraj, he's just a mountain, but because he was able to serve Krishna, it's become a holy place. We worship Giriraj. We have praise for Giriraj. We celebrate a Parents' Day of Giriraj just because he served Krishna. So whoever serves Krishna, yes, you're right. Make sure they get glorified. Not once, they get glorified every year, for eternity. And look at Hanuman served Ram as a das, and he's glorified. He's seen as God by many people. And we have Hanuman Chalisa we do every week. So like that. So serving is not, people misunderstand that serving God is like, who wants to be a servant? But you see, if you're a servant of God, then God makes you nearly good as him. You are up there. It's a very privileged position to be in that, to be able to serve God, because not everybody gets the opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. So if you have the grace of the Lord, then you are naturally just blessed. There's no question about it. I mean, it's like you gave the example of Lord Hanuman. In some ways, Lord Ram is happy to take a back seat to Lord Hanuman. He would rather see him glorified than himself. It's just, that's the great. Lord is, he's complete in himself, so he's got no reason to. It's not like a material where you're trying to get one-upmanship. He actually Lord wants to, Krishna, of course, he wants to see glorify his devotees. It makes him happy to see his devotees happy. That's the thing. So servant is the best position to be in, actually.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Now this thing, I don't know what, because I've been trying to work it out myself, and so you keep saying that they went back in the same body. I mean, did you find out what that means? They went back in the same body.
I think it meant as in it's meant like they were spiritualized. Simple as that, really.
They must be. That's what I'm saying in the class. That they must be completely purified.
Mm.
They must have had their spiritual. They must have had spiritual bodies here, or the bodies been
Yeah. Well,
some.
like for example, like I spoke about Agnidev. Agnidev gave the boon to Arjun that he could go to the heavens in
Yeah,
his own body. So he like normally need do a lot of piety to go to heaven. Well, Arjun just went as he is. So in that case, he actually received a boon as such to go to heavens.
yeah,
But in terms of going back to Godhead, going back in your own body, that means the body had been spiritualized straight away by Krishna.
absolutely. Because nothing material can go
Mm.
into the spiritual world. So yeah, something's changed, but they still say in their own body, but they mean spiritual bodies, not
Yeah, I
material.
think it's like because you don't you tend to assume that say like for example, Vishnu dudes come down and you suddenly develop a spiritual body, whatever. But in their case, they just went as they are. They would have been spiritualized.
Yeah, makes sense. Thank you so much. Okay, anybody else would like to make any statements or discuss anything, ask any questions, please fire away. Kiran Prabhu, Mataji's.
Can I ask something?
Sure,
Go for it.
sure, sure.
Yudhishthira Maharaj knew when it was time to move on. He knew enough was enough. Let's make tracks up north or towards the spiritual Himalayas. Why is it in today's institutions, such as our temples, that the old dead wood doesn't want to move? Yeah. Why is it succession planning was easier for Yudhishthira to give it to and move it on to a very distinguished individual such as Parikshit? Why is it nowadays nobody wants to let go of their seats, their chairs? Because I think many of them think they're bigger than some of the deities. But what is it? Is it their attachment to Maya and seats and positions of privilege and fame? Why do they not want to let go?
I think I'll refer to a verse I mentioned about Yudhishthira towards the end, that Yudhishthira become fearless. He's completely surrendered to the Lord. So if you're considering those that are attached, I think more than attachment to material enjoyment or whatnot, it's more fear. They're scared of, if I let go of my position, that what will happen to me? Will people respect me? Who will look after me? What will I do? They're not like Marjadishthira. Marjadishthira had no fear. He was completely dependent on the Lord. He was Marjadishthira was emperor of the world. You want to talk about giving something up? He gave up everything. He had everything he could want. He had loving brothers, powerful. He had, himself. He had Draupadi's, exceptional wife. He had everything, everything he could ever want. But again, he was spiritually intelligent, and that's the thing. If you're not spiritually intelligent, if you haven't surrendered to the Lord, then you will stay attached to the nonsense over here, and then you end up wasting your time. You become material attached, and then you miss out any chance on going back to Godhead because you're attached to temporary things rather than attaching yourself to Sattva, eternal. We are eternal, but if we attach yourself to temporary things, then yeah, you just make a fool of yourself. It's like Dhritarashtra. He made a fool of himself sticking around the kingdom. He should have quit the kingdom once the war was lost and tried to get back to Godhead if possible, and despite his crimes. But it took Vidura to shake him, tell him, stop making a fool of yourself. Your teeth are falling out, you're going blind, and you're being taken care of. The Pandavas who killed your sons, you schemed against constantly. And that's that first sort of thing. When fear takes over, the brain loses intelligence, and then you end up in a situation where you're causing so much damage. People don't respect you anymore because you're making a fool of yourself. I hope that makes some sense, Prabhu.
It does. I think it's that depth of spiritual intelligent realization that makes you want to say enough is enough, let go, let's move on, let's give other people an opportunity and a chance.
Sure.
Yeah, Prabhu, that's what I was thinking, that it shows level of devotion. So when a devotee is fearless because he has full faith in the Lord, but these people who are clinging to the positions because the power is coming from the positions, the designations, because they got no devotion. Yeah, very nice class, Ajay Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Thank you much. Yeah,
thank you. You went so well, nearly verse by verse, and really nice. Thank you so much.
Thank you much.
Prabhuji asked the question because it didn't make, I wasn't clear about living in the same body, but it made sense when Prabhuji asked the question. So thank you so much.
Yeah, that's the last verse. Well, near last verse. Sarva Dharma Parityajya. There's a reason why Krishna is pointing that out to us. We need to abandon this cheating propensity. This idea that we can lord it over the world and still serve Krishna. You need to use all your everything, all your facilities, all your thinking for Krishna. When we do that, then it works. Until then, we're just trying to cheat Krishna, and you can't cheat Krishna. So it's not possible.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Swashi Mata, do you want to make any comments? Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Krishna.
Very nice. Very interesting to know. About this, I agree they had the spiritual body, like, because they were not born like a human being or a human mother, father, because they were born of the demigods. And Draupadi, she came out of the fire, so they didn't have body like us. That's why they went with the body, like spiritual body, more or less. So they went and they were associating with Krishna all the time. I mean, they were so very special. So the Krishna wants to take them with their own abode, with their same body. They can go. It's very possible. Hare
Yeah,
Krishna.
very good point. Now, would they have, if they were in the war, if they had spiritual body, and there was a, like, if they were injured, would they have died? You know, that's the thing.
I think, Matri, did you want to answer or shall I answer? Okay, well, I'll just say in terms of like obviously they have empowered by demigods, but even that only goes so far. You know, you could maybe get to the heavens potentially, but even then, you know, you can't go to Vaikuntha Lok just because you're, you know, demigod as such. So that's where the power by Krishna kicks in. So, you know, they were certainly, like Machi explained, they're very powerful. But then on top of that, then they get the association of Krishna, surrender to Krishna, then they became completely spiritual, like properly, you know, like then there was no doubt they could go back.
I mean, plus also the body of the demigod is subtle, but it's not spiritual,
Mm.
right? It's
Yeah,
what do they call it? We are terrestrial, they're extraterrestrial,
yeah.
and
The
but not
celestial, yeah.
yeah,
The celestials.
yeah, they're
Celestial.
celestial or extraterrestrial. Yeah, they're celestial, we are terrestrial, and then this is spiritual. So they're in between spiritual and
Yeah.
terrestrial, like us.
Yes. Yeah, so they're empowered, but not to the level that, you know, you could head back to Vaikuntha Lok or
But it
whatever.
still makes sense that they don't have the gross bodies like we have, and
Yeah.
so they're halfway there,
Mm.
and they get spiritualized. Big association of Krishna and his
When
blessings.
Krishna comes, he bring all the associates with him. So they were not ordinary people. They came and especially Arjuna. He's still he says Narayan. He's always with Krishna.
Mm. Yes, Arjun knows something special. Yes, of course, but they're like a mix. Like, you know, obviously, there were some of the associates were like eternal associates, and then some of them were demigods as well, and part of the Yadu clan. So there's a mix there. But yes, you have to differentiate between the higher ones and the bit lower ones. That's a good point, Matri.
Hare Krishna.
Very
Very nice, very nicely explained, and thoroughly enjoyed the overviews, and the overviews are really, really enjoyable in a sense that after going through the verses of the chapters, to be able to hear the chapter in a condensed form in one sitting, in one session is wonderful. And it just came to my mind that our tests are very, very easy compared to the tests the earlier yugas were having. The Pandavas, they were celestial beings, they were eternal associates of Lord, and the kind of tests they were put into by the Lord, even if it's part of Leela. So it's amazing that if the eternal associates have to go through such tests, then I think we should be thanking the Lord every time we pick up our bead bags or just sit in this association of going through the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, going through the overviews, going through the verse by verse. Our challenges are very, very easy. Like we look at the lower species and sometimes we think that, oh, they just go through the lives just like that. What do they have to do? I think similarly we should think of ourselves when we look at the pastimes of these exalted devotees of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, that our tests are much easier because of Kali-yuga, perhaps.
Yeah,
And
it's because of Kali Yuga.
yeah,
I mean, in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam it's mentioned that you have to take birth again and again to purify yourself, You have to take birth again and again until you're completely purified, or your anarthas are gone, and then you can move forward. But it's because Lord Chaitanya came, he gave us the Mahamantra. We can purify ourselves a lot quicker. So, like normally you would not go back to Godhead in one sitting, one body, one lifetime. You would take many lifetimes to get you there. But now, because of Lord Chaitanya, because of the Mahamantra, we can go back in the same lifetime.
And like you've said that because of Lord Chaitanya, and how blessed we are that we took birth in that Kali Yuga in which Lord Chaitanya comes, because Lord Chaitanya doesn't comes in every Kali Yuga.
No.
So yes, we should all congratulate ourselves that we are in the right era, in the right time. We keep saying golden years. These golden years are due to the golden avatar. And yes, you were rightly saying, Ajay, when you said that the golden time of Kali, when it comes after this golden period of bhakti, God help the ones who will be in that time. Because even now, in this golden age, times look really challenging when we look around there, and never mind how things are going to be after these 10,000 years. So thank you so much.
And thank you all so much. And shall we stop here? It's 9:15. And unless there's anything else, we can stop here. And then we'll continue chapter 16 from Friday onwards. Yeah. And let's give 3 Haribols to Ajay, Prabhu, please, if you can unmute yourself. Haribol!
Haribol.
Haribol!
Haribol.
Thank you all so much.
Thank
you.
Thank you.
Haribol.
Haribol. Thank you, Guruji.
Haribol.